Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Angela, and today I have a very special guest with me. I always have special guests, but this is a different special guest than the others. I'm having a conversation that is deeply personal today, yet profoundly universal. We often talk about the weight of grief and the silence that follows. But what if that silence isn't truly empty? My guest today is someone who spends his life navigating the space between our world and the next. He is a psychic medium and a teacher of channeling, but more importantly, he's my partner.
Aw.
Working alongside him, I've learned that the other side isn't a distant place. It's a frequency we can learn to tap into. And today we're moving past the parlor tricks and the surface level questions to explore the mechanics of the soul, the nature of consciousness, and what it actually means to heal through connection with the other side. So I am so honored to welcome Kevin the Medium to the show.
No, thank you so much. Wow, what an intro. I don't know if I can answer all the questions that you just put out there. That sounded like I was going to go find someone to answer those questions.
Well, it's my mission to keep you on your toes during this interview.
Okay, let's give her.
All right. So, I think, this we can safely say that this is your soul's calling. And when we strip away the labels of medium or teacher, what does your soul feel it's actually here to do?
Oh my, it is without a doubt something that I've kind of been trying to balance, I'll say, but it is by far my biggest calling is to let people know that this isn't it. This is not the end. We don't just live and die. And yes, there's people out there that really truly believe that we live this life and we die, and that's it. And I honestly believe a big part of the reason I walk down the path I have is to change that opinion on those that are ready to be changed. I mean, you're not going to change. I wish I could. I wish I could change everybody's opinion. But for those that are willing to listen I always tell people I'm not here to prove to you what I do is real. But if you're ready to hear a message from someone on the other side, I'm more than willing to pass that message on.
Yeah. And you've become very good at that, passing along the messages that need to be passed on. And you spend a lot of your time, I would say, in the space between the unseen and the 3D world that we're in. So, how does that work for you? Because I know you've talked about the other side and then being in this 3D world. And it's not like you can spend all your time being a spiritual person when you're in this 3D world. Like, how do you balance the two?
It is one of the toughest things we do as any spiritual practitioner. It doesn't matter what you're doing in spirituality, whether you're doing what I do, being a medium, psychic, whatever label you want to put on that, whether you're a healer, there's so many other types of spiritual practitioners. I think the most important thing is that balance. And as you know, I get a lot of people who look at me side-eyed. I'll use that term because I will have 3 or 4 sessions in a day, and then that evening I'll watch a football game and have a beer. And that's that balance. We can't, and I don't think we are expected to be all in 100% of the time. I think if you are, you lose touch with reality to some degree. Some people more than others, but I think it's so important to have that balance. And I tell my students quite often, don't go too far down that rabbit hole because, as you and I know, that rabbit hole never ends. You can go down that rabbit hole, and it's a big rabbit hole, and it's hard to get back out of that rabbit hole sometimes. So keep it balanced. And yes, I mean, you want to live your life with spirituality based, but you got to remember we're in this world and it's okay to go and have a beer in my case. If you're not a beer drinker, that doesn't mean you have to go and have a beer. But I think it's important to stay and have one foot in reality.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think that's one of the things that kind of surprised me when I met you was that we do these mentoring sessions and then you'd talk about your passion for the CFL or going out with the guys or just, you know, being a normal human being, which I'm not saying that highly spiritual people aren't normal, but it just seems like there was more balance there than in other people that I've met that are very much mediums or channels.
Well, I find that a lot of people who go down this path, especially mediums, I find, or channelers, like you say, I interuse those words, channeling, medium, psychic. I think they all mean the same thing because that's what we're doing. We're channeling a message, we're channeling that energy. But you use the word highly spiritual people. I don't think if you go down the rabbit hole and you think, breathe, and eat spirituality 24/7, that doesn't make you more spiritual than someone like myself who I love my sports. I do sports podcasts on a regular basis. As you know, three days a week, I'm doing a sports podcast. When I'm doing a sports podcast, I'm not really stepping into the spiritual realm for the most part. So that's the balance I'm talking about. Doesn't mean I'm less spiritual than someone who's 24/7 eating, breathing, and inhaling spirituality 24/7. I just think that it's important to be balanced. We talk about it all the time. The universe needs to be balanced. If we have dark, we have to have light. If we have good, we have to have bad. If we have anything, it has to be balanced. So spirituality, 3D world, it needs to be balanced.
Okay, so if the language of spirit, so when you're channeling, you're translating frequency into human language. So you must get some really profound truths through this because you're bridging that gap between the spiritual world or the spiritual realms and you're translating that frequency into this language.
I love the way you said it that way because quite often in a session I'll say things like they're telling me or they're saying to me. As you know, I don't hear voices. That's not how I communicate. I get thoughts, but I also will get if my thoughts aren't getting the message they want, I'm not getting the message they want me to get. They will show me visuals like a picture or a motion picture sometimes to get me to where I need to go. And that's that translation that we talk about from the spiritual frequency to this English language. And it's funny because I communicate obviously with my guides on a regular basis. And quite often there'll be like, I can't give you what you're looking for because there's no translation from that spiritual frequency to your language. It just doesn't happen. It's funny when I talk to people and they're like, well, what do you hear? And I'm like, well, I don't hear anything. I get messages from thought. And then they're like, how do you decipher that thought? Like, how do you know that's not just you're making it up? And I'm like, well, because we can give evidential messages that there's no way I would know. I'll use you as an example because we talk about this on a regular basis. So it's not, when I do a reading, it's 100% confidential, but I know Angela has shared this publicly, so I'm not breaking the confidence. When we have our very first reading, I think within the first few minutes, I kept doing this. And I'm like, why do I feel like I need to do this for you? right away you knew that was coming from your late husband, and that was a triple warmer smoothie.
Gummy bear.
Did I say did I say it right?
Yeah, you did. I was
I
waiting
was
for gummy bear.
I was going to add gummy bear. It's an inside joke, folks. You knew right away that was Blaine letting you know that I was connecting. There's no way I would have known. I didn't know Donna Eden. I didn't know any of that information. So that's that evidential evidence. There's a oxy. That's two things that probably shouldn't go together. But it is. It's that evidence that message is real. And that's just thought. That wasn't, they weren't showing me anything. They were just in my head. I need to rub my forehead down on my cheeks. It's just a
Mm,
thought I had. When we talk about interpreting, I think a lot of times we might interpret incorrectly. I'm not 100% correct. If you're ever talking to a medium, a psychic, a channeler of any kind, and they tell you they get messages 100% correct 100% of the time, please walk away. Nobody does. Not even a John Edward who has done this for 40 plus years and who I think is one of the best at it in present time. He's not 100% correct, and he admits he's not because we have this thing called a brain, and sometimes the interpretation we get is incorrect.
yeah, that makes sense. So we've talked about the soul and how it resides, or at least part of it resides in this human body. And then there's just so much more of it outside in the realms. Do you think that there's a part of the soul that actually remains untouched by human experience?
Well, if you would have asked me this question a month ago, 2 months ago, I probably would have said no. Our soul comes here and our soul experiences. But as we grow, and I say we, I'm talking just you and I, as we grow, we learn different things. And I know we read a book or listened to a book, Journey of Souls. And when the author read about how part of our soul stays behind and is in a dormant state, it resonated with me so strongly. I immediately, when I'm questioning anything, I immediately check with my guides, and they have a way to give me a feeling that I know, oh, that's true. And when I checked, it was boom, that's true. Part of us stays home in this dormant state, and I don't think that part of us has ever incarnated.
Mm,
Like you said, we have parts of our soul that reside with us. And then we're going to get really deep. And there could be other parts of our soul living a totally different life in a parallel realm, parallel universe. We don't even, our brain can't comprehend it. It's gets so multi-layered and beyond rabbit hole-ish that our brain just kind of goes, that's impossible.
mm,
I've learned that if I can check with my guide and they give me that feeling, and everybody's feeling is going to be different. We can touch on that if we want later. If they give me that feeling, then I know it's real. That's all I need to know. Some people really want to go down the rabbit hole and get all, I'm like, I don't need it. I just know I'm sitting on a chair and this is a table. How do I know? Because I checked. This is a table. It's a table, and I know this is a chair. That's what we were taught. That's what we know. It's the same thing. I
mm.
don't need to find out why it's a table. It's not important. It's just a table.
Well, it would take us a while if we were going to double check all of those things and find out where they originated.
But there is people that will do that. There is
Right.
people, and I think that's where you get what we talked about earlier, just hyper focused on spirituality and nothing but, and they lose touch with this is a table, this is a chair. That's all we need to know.
Mm.
Ooh, I got goosebumps on that one.
Okay, so part of this now, you connect with your guides, and I suspect that there's been times when they've told you things that you didn't like. And I know that there's times where you get messages from them and you have to surrender some type of control. How do you know, or how are you able to, how has the spirit world taught you about letting go of control, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, we've talked about this at length at times. When we are able to connect with our guides, who are our guides? Our guides are members of our soul group or soul family, if you will. Just like we have family here, when we go home, we go, well, you can label it the astral realm, heaven, whatever label you want. It's where we go when we leave this flesh and bone behind. We have members of our group that have said, you know what, I will be your guide. And they have the big picture. They know why you're here. They know the lessons we're supposed to be learning. They know the experiences we're supposed to experience. So when you connect with them, and it's like having a roadmap, a live living roadmap, and they can direct you. They can say, okay, take a right turn, and you look at that right turn and you're on a bicycle and it's a big hill. It's going up a mountain and you're like, I don't want to take that hill. So you don't listen because we have this thing called free will. Now, if you would have taken that hill, yes, it would have been tough to get up to the top of that hill, but it would have been real simple ride for the rest of the time. Instead, we went straight and it was bumpy and not very good. Doesn't mean we made an error, just we chose a different path. When we get to the point where we can just go, I'll climb that damn hill for you. I know that you would never lead me astray. And it's important to know when you connect with your guides, and it's important to know when you're connecting to your guides and that it's your guides you're actually connecting with. And they say, going up that hill is your best bet right now. And when you can get to the point where you can surrender and just go, okay, I'm climbing the hill, that's when things change. And I have for instance, when back in March, probably August, and we were discussing where we were going with our relationship. And we had been doing the long distance thing and it was getting really tiresome. And I was like, okay, I'm going to counsel with my guides. I'm going to find out what is going to be my best path. And without a doubt, it was leave the job you're at, do your mediumship full time, move to Maple Creek. Huh? But what? But okay, I'm going to surrender. I'm going to trust that my guides wouldn't lead me astray. And I know they won't, but I had to surrender and trust. And I did. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it was the best decision I ever made. So it's when you get to that point is when things start to make more sense. Does that answer your question in a long-winded way?
Yeah. And I think, sometimes, like you say, we have free will. We can choose not to listen and do whatever we want to do. And quite often, I notice that if I look back on that situation, I'll be like, yeah, maybe I should have listened to them.
Well, and sometimes it just looks easier. I'm going straight, it's flat. I don't
Mm,
want to go over that mountain. If I go straight, it's flat. It's way easier. But
mm,
over top of that mountain's a beautiful ocean. I'm using an analogy. If people from know the prairies, they understand what analogy I'm using. But if I stay in this flat spot, it's way easier. But holy, does it ever get cold? And there's ever a lot of snow. So was it really easier? Maybe. Maybe that was the path that you chose. You decided, well, you know what? I'm going to take the easier path that's going to make it a little bit tougher. And that's just the path you chose. Would have been way better if you climbed the mountain and been sitting on the beach by the ocean. Might
yeah,
have been easier.
yeah. And I guess it's important not to judge Like you say, when we choose something, it's not necessarily a wrong choice or a bad choice. It's just a choice. And we get a different kind of experience going through along a different path.
Yes. And I tell people regularly, there is no wrong choices when we're making a decision in life. Um, it's just different choices. And people go, well, what if you had a choice to take this drug or not take this drug? And then you took the drug and you ended up on the street and you were a drug addict. It's not a wrong, might have not be a wrong choice. That might just be the path you decided to walk down before you incarnated. We don't know.
Mm,
We really don't know.
yeah, it's very complex, way beyond our comprehension. So, this whole podcast is about grief, and you know that I'm deeply invested in the journey of awakening through grief. And from your perspective, do you think that grief is a bridge that draws us closer to understanding the spiritual realm? Or is grief a layer that we have to peel back so that we can see the spirit realm more clearly?
Good question. A little of both. I think grief is a pathway that will guide us down that spiritual path if we so choose. So there's a lot of people that go through grief and they don't walk down a spiritual path whatsoever. And they go through the process of grief and come out the other side and they're fine. They're living normal every life. So it doesn't have to be a pathway to spirituality. Can it be? 100%. And as you have seen it with yourself and you have seen it with through me with many other people, where I'm able to give a message that changes everything for someone. And I don't take that lightly. When I get a message that I know is going to resonate, I make sure that that message is going to be delivered in a way that is going to help that person sitting in front of me. And so, does grief have to be a pathway to spirituality? No. Can it be? 100%. And I think it's a healthy pathway through the process of grief.
Mm. Yeah. And I think that I've seen so many examples of this. I think it's because when you're in that deep grief and you're in so much pain, it makes you question a lot of big things like, why am I here and where is my loved one? Where are they and what are they doing? And is there life after death? And all of those big questions that tend to take you down that spiritual path, just because how do you answer them otherwise?
Well, I have run into people where they're like, no, I don't want a reading from you because you will destroy my thought, my belief process. I know one young gentleman who we both know, and his belief was we live and we die. And I instantly felt a presence beside me, and I had to share that presence with him because it was his friend who had passed away 2 weeks earlier. And it literally opened up a whole different pathway for this young gentleman, and it changed his life, to be blunt. He changed his life because of it. I didn't change his life. It's very important that my guides are like, be careful the way you speak because people will take you literally. I gave him a message that changed his life. He decided with that, once he received that message, his life was changing, and it did, and it changed for the good. I've watched him and I've watched him blossom, and it's really cool that he no longer thinks we live and die. He honestly knows that we live this life and then we continue afterwards.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. One of the questions I had here was, we often look to the other side for answers, but what have the spirits told you about the sacredness of being here in a physical body right now and looking for those answers?
it's always a tough one because I'll get the ultimate why. Why did Blaine leave?
Mm,
I can't give you that answer. This soul that was Blaine won't give me that answer. Because that would literally break every universal law that we have. And that's probably one of the biggest ones that I get when it's like, why? Or could I have done something to change that circumstance? Every time I get that one, it's always the same. Does it matter? Nothing changed. I'm still over here. You're living. You're still in human form. I'm now in spirit form. Um, there is some answers that we're just not entitled to while we are here. I've been told when we go home, we get all of them. We get universal knowledge again, and we'll understand way better why, how, and when. That's just not something we're entitled to. There's certain things we're just not entitled to while we live,
mhm. Yeah.
if that makes sense. Did
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So, when you're channeling or when you're receiving messages, how does that feel in your body? Like, how do you know that this is a vibration or the highest vibration of truth and that you're in alignment with it?
I get this question quite often, and you just know, you just get that absolute. A lot of times I'll hold my arm up and like I am right now, and you'll see the hair on my arm all standing straight up, and I'll get goosebumps. That is their way of telling me I'm connected and I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right at this exact time. So that feeling is so important. And people quite often ask me, well, how do you, like, what is that feeling? And it's like, it's the perfect feeling. It's that I'm in tune. I'm there. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. As soon as you think, then it's not right. Try to reground. I wiggle my butt because that's my way of grounding. Everybody has their own way of grounding. Reground, take a couple of clearing breaths, try again. You will get that. There it is. I'm connected. It's just that feeling. You just know. There's no, oh, it's at vibration 375 hertz, and this is how you're going to. No, it's just, whew, I feel it.
Mm, yeah. Okay, so you teach channeling and you've done quite a few workshops now, and you have quite a few students that have been working with you. And I think you're helping them open a door. What is the legacy or the hope that you leave behind through the people that you mentor through your teaching?
Wow. I never thought of it that way, to be blunt. Um, but if I have to say, if there was a legacy through my clients, I always refer to my everybody as a client. I don't like that teacher word,
Mm,
or student, but anybody that I have taught, I hope they are able to improve their path to the point where they can look at themselves in that mirror and go, wow, I'm not the same person I was prior to taking this course. This is a better version of myself. And if we all could wake up every morning and look at ourselves in the mirror and go, I'm a better version today than I was yesterday. Wow, we win. That's winning. So I guess that would be a really cool legacy.
yeah, it's kind of like uncovering, because I really think that we all have a special reason why we're here on this earth, and we are all very individual. And I think about us watching Alone, and I think about Jax because she so talks about being her authentic self.
Yes.
And when you talk about people walking away a better version of themselves, I think about them as uncovering another piece of themselves that maybe they didn't even recognize they had.
100%. When I first took my courses back in 2020, and I look back at 2019, even 2018, and I look at who I am now compared to what I was in 2019, man, what a different human I am. I'll say a better version of myself 100%. It's funny because most people are on Facebook, and you get Facebook memories that come up. And quite often I'll look over at Angela when I'm getting my Facebook memories and I'm like, holy, I feel like sometimes I should go back and apologize to people because I wasn't the nicest person in the world. I was kind of angry at times, maybe. But, and I think that's the biggest change is I allow others to be who they are, where in the past I didn't. I tried to convert them to be who I wanted them to be. That was just who I was in the political landscape that I was in. Now, I'm way more calm. Except when I'm watching football, um, way, way calmer and way happier with myself than I ever was back then. So, yeah, you can definitely uncover versions of yourself that you had no idea existed.
So, if people want to learn from you, take your course, or maybe have a session with you, tell everybody what you do and how they can connect with you.
So a typical session, it's funny when people come to me the very first time and they haven't been told anything about me, except for you can trust this guy, go to him. And they expect it to be very heavy and very, if you will, and as 100%, totally not what I do. When I do a session, it's very light for the most part. Does it get serious at times? Of course it does. We're passing a message from a loved one that has crossed over to someone who's hurting on this side. Sometimes that can be heavy. And I don't try to sugarcoat it when that happens. But whenever I ask a soul, if you could give us any advice, what's that one advice? Enjoy life. So that's what I take into a session is I want to enjoy it. I want my client to come out with a smile. Will there be tears in between? Yeah. It's a joke that Angela and I have is that's what I do. I make people cry. It's what I do for a living. Um, so that's kind of what you can expect. I will connect with your spirit guides. I love connecting with spirit guides first because they have the big picture. Quite often, if it's very important that a soul comes through first, I will allow that soul to come through first. But I would say out of 10 sessions, 8 of them are going to be soul guides first and then loved ones. And then you asked me about my workshop. I'm actually doing a workshop coming up September 10th. I don't know if this will air before that or not,
It
but
will.
in that workshop, you will literally be able to be given the opportunity to connect with your spirit guide, one or two of them, connect with your soul as well, and loved ones from the other side. Um, I keep the group small, usually somewhere between that 10 and 15 mark, because I like it to be personable and I don't want 40 or 50 people there because you don't get the same intimate group setting, so to speak. And I find it's more important. I'd rather have 5 than 50, to be honest, because when you have a smaller group, it I can spend more time focused on each individual rather than having to focus on the whole group as a whole. Again, even in this workshop, I keep it light because it's supposed to be having fun. I mean, how cool is it that we're able to connect to the other side? I don't think I'm gifted. I think every living soul on earth can do what I do. All you got to do is turn, we all have the satellite. All you got to do is turn the switch and it's there for us. It's just learning how to turn that switch on.
Okay. And we'll make sure that there's links to your website and your Facebook page.
It's
So,
pretty easy. It's Kevin the Medium on all my sites, and that'll take you to the sessions.
okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
You asked me, I think one of your questions was, what is your legacy? And part of one of my legacies is I want this to be normal. I don't want it to be weird that we're talking to, as people always say, you talk to dead people. Yes, that's what I do. I talk to dead people. I want that to be normal because it is normal. It should be normal. So that's a big thing that I'm trying to put out there is if I was wearing my hoodie, as you know, that I wear quite often in the wintertime, I'm just a kid in a hoodie doing what I do. I'm not special. And that's what we need more of is just everyday people doing what we do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Maybe we'll do it again
Kinda.
sometime.
Well, you know what's funny? It's funny you say that because this might air on Monday. Tuesday, we're going to be have role reversal, and I'm going to be interviewing Angela on my podcast, which is called Tuning into Truth. So check my social, check out Facebook, Kevin the Medium, and you'll see the links for Tuning into Truth.
Yeah, and you'll get to see all the other crazy things that we do. Just keep following us.
Yes, we do some crazy things.
You bet. All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and bye for now.